Yeah, there we are.
Arturo, welcome. So let's go ahead and get started. Everything is just in transparency, Arturo. This conversation is being recorded, and this will be sent to the member hospitals here in Nebraska that qualify for the ACE natural gas program. Quickly, my name is Mike Delaney. I'm a Senior Director of Business Partnerships here with the Nebraska Hospital Association, and I'm excited to introduce our preferred business partner, ACE Natural Gas. Today, we are joined by Mandy Heerman and Beth Ackland, and I'll do a brief overview. I know Mandy will not be shy to correct me if anything I state is wrong, but ACE is a community-owned, not-for-profit natural gas supplier in the Nebraska Choice Gas Program. It is one of the 4 organizations of NMPP Energy located in Lincoln, Nebraska. ACE is owned by 75 Nebraska communities and 1 public power district and supplies natural gas to more than 16,000 customers. Mandy, with that being said, take it away and welcome.
Thank you. I'll give Beth a moment to get the slides up. Yes, I think Beth mentioned just like a couple minutes earlier, we are living in some interesting times. And because of that, it's definitely impacting everybody's natural gas bills coming up. With choice gas selection on its way, we thought it was pretty important to have a discussion about what's impacting the market. Nobody can know for sure exactly what the natural gas market is going to do. But if we look at what's happening and what factors are impacting the market, we can make a more informed decision moving forward with natural gas needs. But to make sure everybody's on the same page before we get started, I'm going to have Beth talk about what's going on in the market in a few minutes. But before we get started, I wanted to chat a little bit about the Choice Gas program itself and how it works, because the program's been around for 25 years, but it's pretty unique to Nebraska. Ours is a little bit different than any other kind of choice program out there. And even if Choice Gas has been around for 25 years, but not everybody has been around it for 25 years. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes before we get started to make sure that everybody understands how the program works. So basically, you want to go ahead and switch slides? There we go. So when you're talking about the Nebraska Choice Gas Program, in about 2/3 of the state of Nebraska, you got 2 gas companies. You have the distributor or the utility, and that's always going to be Black Hills Energy. Regardless of who you choose as your supplier, their job is to manage your gas supply from the edge of town to the property. So meter reading, billing, you smell that funny gas smell, pipeline maintenance, they manage all of that from within the city gate to the property. But you also have your gas supplier. And the supplier's job is to make sure that there's gas at the edge of town when you guys need it. So the supplier, what we do is we manage everything from ground to town. We go buy it off the market, we ship it, we store it, we manage all of that stuff behind the scenes so that it's right there at the edge of town when Black Hills needs it, when you need it. So we show up on a natural gas bill on page 2. We are the commodity charge line item of the gas bill. Everything else, distribution charges, taxes, fees, that's all related to the utility part itself, but the commodity charge is the supplier. Okay, so next. So when you're choosing a natural gas supplier at this supplier selection period coming up soon, you're choosing who you want to supply your gas. And currently there are 7 suppliers. There's ACE, there's Black Hills Energy Services, and I just put in there just for an aside, there are 2 Black Hills Energies, and that can be a little bit confusing when we're trying to help a customer. There's Black Hills Energy, the utility, but then there's also this separate affiliate, this Black Hills Energy Services. They are a separate company, and they function as a supplier in the program. There's also Constellation, Vista, Wood River, Uncle Frank, and Symmetry. They're same ones as we had last year. And when you're choosing not just who you want to supply your gas, but you're choosing different pricing options. There's 3 basic ones out there. Their different suppliers have their own different spins on things. They may have some other ones, but your three basic ones are your fixed monthly bill, which is something that encompasses your entire gas bill and locks that in so you pay the exact same amount every single month, no matter how much you use, when you use it. You use too much, we're not coming after you. You use too little, we're not doing a true up that direction. There's also a fixed rate per therm where you pay for what you use when you use it, but it's going to be at a set rate for the entire year, 2 year, 3 years, however long you determine. And then there's a market rate. And when I quote a market rate, it comes out like a math equation. A market rate is going to change every single month based on what's going on in the market. So when I quote it, I'll be saying the CIG, which is the market that we quote from, the Colorado Interstate Gas Market, plus an adder. Now the adder itself is not going to change because that's the cost to get the gas from the market to the edge of town there. But the market price, that part, the CIG, is going to change every single month based on what the market's doing. So those are the three basic options. But like I said, there's different options out there every year based on what's going on in the market and what customer needs are. I'll let Beth talk a little bit about that later. So how does this all work? So pretty soon, if you haven't got them already, pretty soon, we'll probably start seeing them a little bit more next week. Selection packets are going to be sent in the mail from Black Hills Energy. Selection packets are going to have every meter that's eligible to choose is going to get one. And every meter that's eligible to choose is going to have a selection form in there with details and information on how to lock in your supplier. There's a 3-week selection period this year. It's April 1st through 21st. And beginning on the 1st, marketers, suppliers are going to be out there looking to lock you in. So there's going to be phone calls, emails, and all that sort of stuff trying to lock you in, trying to get everybody, as many people locking in as possible. We will also be, one of the cool things about the program is once you lock in, if you call up on the first day, you make your supplier selection, the next day, all of that noise, all of the emails, the text messages, the phone calls, they all cease right there the next day. So if you want to get it out of the way, that's great. That is a very good option for you. For those customers, if you make it through the entire selection and do not get your selection in, you will be considered a rollover customer. You're going to have the same supplier you had the previous year. You're going to have the same pricing option you had the previous year. So if you picked a fixed rate last year and you don't make a selection, you're still going to be on a fixed rate with the same supplier, but that rate's going to be set at a different time. In fact, it's going to be set in May. And year over year, I've been doing this for a lot of years, year over year, those people who do not choose based on reports posted by the Public Service Commission, it actually costs customers when they do not choose a lot of the time. And especially with the volatile natural gas market going, I apologize for any background noise right now. But especially with everything going on in the market right now, we want to make sure that we get as many people choosing their natural gas supplier as possible. So I'm going to transfer this over to Beth now. So she's going to be talking a little bit about what that looks like and what that means with what's going on in the market.
Okay, got a little trigger happy there. Thank you, Mandy. Great job giving an overview of what the Choice Gas program is. I do have to mention, I know we have Henderson and Cozad on the call. Both of those communities are members of ACE, so we do have that in common. And Corey, I believe you joined after I heard where everyone was from. If you have a microphone, I'd love to know where you're from. Okay, well, Corey, you can offer that later if you want or in the chat, but really doesn't matter whether you're in an ACE member community or not, but it is kind of that added bonus that ACE does benefit those communities. Market, and especially the energy market, is a big question mark right now. Just lots and lots of information on energy in the news. We're feeling it at the pump. If you haven't been, you've been living under a rock. If you haven't heard all of the increases in energy costs, and unfortunately that will impact natural gas. Kind of slipped ahead to this slide a moment ago. Obviously, lots of global uncertainty introduced 1 month ago today, specifically with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And there will be a lot of impacts in a lot of different areas, a lot of agricultural commodities, metals, a lot of different industries will be impacted. But first and foremost is energy. That's probably going to be the first and hardest hit by what is going on there. So we'll explore that a little bit later. But what I think is important to point out also is that natural gas prices have been on the rise since 2020. Well before these global events that have been in the news and are often blamed for the current surge in energy prices. They have been going up specifically since 2020 and have been relatively low for a number of years. In the Choice Gas program, we typically talk, it's a retail program, it's retail customers. So we're typically, when we quote rates, it's cents per therm. But the wholesale market is done in dollars per decatherm or per 10 therms. So while there's not a direct correlation, it does give you a good benchmark of where the market has been and where it's going. And you can see in 2015 on the wholesale market, a little above $2.50 is what natural gas was selling for. And then came up a little bit above $3, still very fair price for natural gas. And then things plummeted. They were starting to go down before the pandemic hit and bottomed out a little below $2 actually in 2020. For a while, it was like $1.85, $1.95 for a short period of time. Unsustainable. In all reality, $2 on a wholesale unit is not enough for marketers to produce. They can't cover their costs at $2 wholesale pricing. And then you can see that steep rise from 2020 to 2021 as some of those factors started coming into play. Producers weren't producing as much. Some of them went bankrupt. So there was less natural gas being produced. Prices rose. By the end of 2021, you can see they're approaching $4 on the wholesale market. Unfortunately, that's only gotten worse in 2022. This gives you a nice picture, nice if you like high prices, I guess. It gives you a graphic picture of where prices have been for natural gas in the past year. If you look at that purple dashed line there, that's 1 year ago. You can see that the wholesale pricing was around $2.40. And this is pricing from yesterday. The green line there on top is current pricing, and front month pricing, in other words, pricing for April is now above $5, about $5.25, and rising even higher by this winter. Winter being November to March. Typically in the natural gas world. So significantly elevated over a year ago, and you can see that has just incrementally gone up over the last year pretty quickly. Then looking specifically, this chart looks at the 3-year period into the future that you folks have the opportunity to choose to lock in a rate. As a commercial customer, you can lock in for 1, 2, or 3 years on any of those pricing options that Mandy talked about, typically a fixed or a market rate. But you can see that front year on a 1-year rate, how elevated those prices are. So for that first year, choice gas years start, you choose in April, choice gas year starts June 1. For that year, prices are high and they've been on the rise. Not a straight line up, they've been up and down over the last month, but currently through February 23, every month is over $5, which has changed over the last month. There was a short period of time where it was below $4, but more recently it's been sustained above that $5 mark for that front year. This curve in the natural gas world is called a backwardated curve. Used to be very unusual, now becoming more common. A backwardated curve means prices are higher at the beginning of the curve than they are farther out, and you can see that steep drop off after this first year. And then there's that second year. There's always that camel hump. That's winter pricing. Pricing is always elevated during the winter period, and then somewhat lower for that third year out. Again, that you have the opportunity to decide 1, 2, or 3 years over that period. And when we talk, this is Henry Hub. Henry Hub and NYMEX are usually very close, and they're considered the national benchmark for the United States. So not exactly the pricing curve that we use, but very indicative of what pricing will do overall. Questions on that before we dig into supply and demand on that? Might make more sense after we look at some of the factors that are affecting this. I'll keep going, but please interrupt me if you have questions. So what's behind the pricing? There are, just like any other product, there are supply and demand factors that affect your price. How much gas is being produced is significant, and you can see on this chart going back to I guess this goes back to 2020. You can see in 2020 how much, as the pandemic hit, how much production fell off rather dramatically below what it had been. That's 2020 in green. In 2021, in general, production was on the rise during 2021 as we started coming out of the worst of the COVID shutdown impacts of that, except for February. Anybody remember what happened in February of 2021? It was really, really cold. Looks like I have some brave person offering a comment. Deep freeze. Yes, deep
cyclone.
Freeze. Pardon me?
Was it called a bomb cyclone?
That was one name for it. On one of my better days, I might have called it a bomb cyclone. Yeah, it was a rough period of time in the natural gas world. 20% of production was lost literally almost overnight. Most of that coming out of Texas, where the production wells there were not protected against the kind of cold that they experienced there. And I wear two hats, and at NMPP, I also live in the wholesale world. And those wholesale customers got hit really hard by the unexpected need for natural gas then, and the rather ridiculous pricing that they had to suffer through at that time, partly because that cold wasn't predicted, and definitely not predicted to be as widespread or to last as long as it did. So significant impacts there, but you can see production did come back. You can see by the end of 2021, production was really chugging right along, you know, at, gosh, what's that, almost 97 BCF for 2021. 2022 has not met expectations yet. The EIA, the Energy Information Agency, that's a U.S. agency, has forecast for 2022 that production would be around 96 BCF, billion cubic feet a day. That's that dashed blue line. Currently, most experts believe we will not hit that. That's was based on some factors that have changed somewhat, partially the global situation. And what impact that's having, a lot of other factors, domestic at play in there. You can see also in 2022, production started out pretty well at 95 BCF a day, fell in February again due to freeze-offs in Texas. Fortunately, those were much less severe, much more short-lived. And so production has recovered. This just goes through February, but it is coming back. I think yesterday's production total was around 93 BCF. So coming back, but not at the 96, 97 BCF a day that was forecast. Oil and gas rig count is always an indicator of how producers are feeling about the energy market. A quote that has stuck with me from a webinar I listened to a few days ago said capital flows where it's well treated. In general, the oil and gas industry is not particularly in favor, in political favor right now. There has been a lot of pressure on that and some uncertainty within that. And it even suffered for a while with those low prices. Producers were pulling out when they were only getting $2 an MMBTU or a decatherm. So that caused, you know, some producers to go out of business. So it has actually been a bit of a slow climb coming back. And a lot of capital has to be put into the ground, literally, in order to ramp up production to where it needs to be to keep pace with demand for that. You'll also notice on this chart, kind of interesting, it would seem that oil and gas rig count has fallen significantly since the years of like 2010, 2011 through 15, kind of dropped there in 2016 and came back, rose after that time. Anyone want to venture a guess what happened in 2016? It's made a huge impact on U.S. production, known as the shale revolution, and fracking, which also is not always a popular term, but it has greatly increased the production in the United States, and also, increased the supply and brought down the cost at the same time. So much more efficient than the traditional vertical wells. Fracking is more horizontal. And again, you see the dip, the COVID dip in 20, and now again with prices rising, producers want to produce, they can make more money. They're a little hesitant about what regulation is going to mean for them. So there's a little bit of capital discipline going on, making sure those are huge investments that have to be made, billions of dollars, in order to produce more oil and gas. Storage is a significant pricing factor on the supply side. U.S. storage on the left side here, this chart, the gray area is a 5-year average of what that storage level has looked like. And you see again kind of that camel's hump there as storage is filled in the summer and then is drawn down in the winter. That's how it's supposed to work, right? But how much gas we have in storage is a big predictor of price. On the left-hand graph there, you can see the blue line is current year compared with last year. And you can see we have a significant, well, we're still in the 5-year range, barely. It's a significant deficit to last year. And then about 20% in the Midwest, actually. And then on the right, you see a very, very strong correlation between pricing for natural gas and what that level of storage is. On that chart in blue is the storage level versus the 5-year average, whether that's high or low. And then in red is natural gas pricing, the prompt month or the next month that you're buying gas for. Storage goes down, pricing goes up almost immediately without fail. Every week, the storage report comes out on Thursday, and it's always, do you buy before or after? Is it going to affect it positively or negative? There's always estimates, but it's a little bit of a guessing game. Anybody seen the movie? This is an old movie. I'm going to tell you how old I am. Trading Places. Trying to even think of the actor's name in it, but they were a couple of stock market guys that were, I think they were brothers, that were always looking at the orange juice commodities in there. And it's kind of stuck with me, that the storage report is critical to pricing. In that case, it was orange juice, but we're talking natural gas. So we'll go on from there. U.S. consumption by sector is interesting. You can see there really hasn't been a lot of change in demand, that consumption by sector over years. You can see that peaked total demand for natural gas, total consumption in 2019 peaked. And I really think each year, 2020, 21, 22 would be successively higher had it not been for COVID. Some of that demand has been slow coming back. There's also more pressure on the natural gas industry, not in favor. In some sectors because it is a fossil fuel, much cleaner, of course, than coal, much less emissions, and very critical to the power industry. Probably a little known fact is that the largest user of natural gas in the United States is electric power generation. So regardless of whether we're transitioning to EVs, we still need natural gas to power electric generation and keep that reliable supply there. LNG has also come on strong. That's liquefied natural gas, has come on strong since 2015, 2016. Interestingly enough, I went to my first Natural Gas 101 seminar in 2007. And the big topic then was how soon can we get more terminals online to import natural gas? That has completely flipped. And now it's how fast can we get those converted from import to export because of the shale revolution and an abundance of natural gas in the United States. So as those terminals began being converted, approval, permitting approved for new terminals to export natural gas, exports have only risen year over year. More natural gas is being exported from the United States in the form of liquefied natural gas. Look how low it was initially there in 2016, the orange line. 2021, again, you see that blip in February where it dropped. That's the navy blue there because of the loss of production in February of 2021, and now going like gangbusters in 2022 there in brown. A new record for LNG exports was set in February of 22 with a new export terminal coming online. It's taken me a while to learn to pronounce this. It's Calcasieu Pass came online in February, and now daily we're seeing about 13.5 BCF exported via LNG every day. That's a lot of natural gas being exported. Added to that is about 6 BCF that's going is exported to Mexico via pipeline. So a lot, if you remember, we're about 93 BCF a day of production. Combined exports to Mexico and LNG are more than 20% of that. So huge demand factor on natural gas pricing. And you can see why. On the right-hand side there, we talked about Henry Hub. That's the national benchmark for the United States there in yellow. This was done around the 1st of March. You can see wholesale pricing for natural gas 473. It's come up since then. But in Europe and Asia, TTF is the transfer title facility in the Netherlands. Pricing typically there ranges $25 to $40 an MMBTU. Pretty significant jump over what we're paying at 473. So a lot of exports going there, and even higher in Asia at that receipt facility where for a short period of time, LNG pricing received there was over $100. So you can imagine producers of natural gas, if they can sell it for $4.73 here, or $5 or $100, they're going to export it. I mean, that's just a natural phenomenon that's going on. Weather has more of an impact than most people think. Most people think it has only a temporary impact. It's cold, we're using more natural gas this week, so pricing goes up. It actually goes farther out than that because of storage. If there is a huge demand for natural gas in the winter, it gets really cold, storage gets depleted. In the summertime, if there's an extended hot period, more natural gas is being used, less is injected into storage. So again, it affects that storage balance, and so that affects your pricing very significantly. On balance then, you can see natural gas production is somewhat steady. Demand is significant there above what's currently being supplied. So we're exporting a lot, but we're also importing some to meet that demand. Any questions before we go back to Ukraine? There's a lot of domestic policy there. The big question on everyone's mind, what impact is this war in the Ukraine going to have on natural gas? And if you came here looking for what that pricing impact is going to be, you're going to be disappointed, because I can't tell you. There's a lot of experts who know a lot more about natural gas than I do, who will not venture a guess at what the actual dollar impact will be. What they always come back to is how volatile it's going to be. And here's why. Why is Ukraine important? Why is it so significant to the energy industry? And also Russia, Russia and Ukraine. Why is what's going on there so important? This isn't the best chart to see that the gray is kind of light, but you can see there Russia on the top right there, gas pipelines in orange, oil pipelines in green, and then in the little bit darker gray there, it's a little bit difficult to see here, but you can see where those pipelines cross Ukraine. And currently Russia is paying a fee to send that natural gas, that oil across Ukraine, and they don't want to. They would rather own those assets. And then also very significantly is Odessa, because that's where LNG can be exported to the rest of the world from that port city there. So very strategic. You see a lot of attempts by Russia to bypass Ukraine. The solid orange here is Nord Stream 1 that goes through the sea there, and then the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that has got a lot of attention that looked like it was going to be approved, and now with what's going on, that looks very unlikely because they want to bypass all of those other countries that they would have to go through to get to their market areas. So where's it going? Where's the energy going from Russia? You could see there specifically with what goes through the Ukraine, 36% of that goes to Germany, very, very reliant on Russian natural gas. They don't have a lot of other options for power in their country. 23% to France and 27% to Italy. So very strategic oil and gas coming through from the Ukraine that Russia clearly would like to have control of that and being able to get it there. At the same time, the United States has now passed other countries and is now the largest LNG exporter in the world. You can see there, these were estimates. The estimate for 2022 for the United States was 11.2. On a daily basis right now, we're exporting over 13 BCF a day. So we've clearly surpassed other countries, have the capacity to do that. That Calcasieu Pass that I mentioned that just came online in February, bumped that up to that record number. They still have additional capacity that they would like to get approved. It's either in the commissioning phase or under construction, along with these other terminals that would very much like to get online. Golden Pass under construction, and Driftwood has been approved but is pending construction. That's great for U.S. producers if they're able to get it to those export facilities, which is another issue. We really don't have sufficient pipeline capacity from all of the production areas to get it to the terminals. And on the flip side of that, in Europe, they don't have sufficient receipt terminals to bring that natural gas online. So solutions to eliminating oil and gas from Russia, while lofty goals, are a little more difficult to manage, a little more long-term before they can adequately be resolved if they're not to get those fuel sources from Russia. Okay, so the big question mark is not if this situation will impact energy, but how much. And that's where you really hear volatility is the buzzword, and I've seen it on a daily basis. Natural gas on a wholesale basis can jump. I've seen it, the day before yesterday, it jumped 40 cents on a $5 market. That's pretty significant in one day. The next day it went up a few cents, and then it'll pull back a little bit. It hasn't been under $5 for probably 10 days. So just lots of back and forth. And it is extremely difficult to project how much additional volatility this will introduce. The market's already volatile. It's really a question of how much and how do you manage it. Questions on that before I'll spend one slide even just talking about some options that we might have for you, but questions about a very complicated situation in the world that we're facing. All right, we'll go on from there. I don't like this slide very much. we had this slide for an ACE board meeting. Remember, ACE is owned by 75 Nebraska communities, and we had a board meeting just 2 days ago. And I didn't like putting this slide up there, but the reality is choice gas customers of any natural gas customers in Nebraska are probably in for more of a shock than the rest of us who've had a gradual increase in our price. Over 90% of choice gas customers choose to lock in a fixed rate, which means customers have been paying a level rate 1, 2, or 3 years that is in all likelihood substantially lower than what we're going to be able to offer this year. There is going to be a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty in price day over day more than any time I've been involved in the natural gas industry, which has been since 2006. It's just a very, very volatile market. That it's really, you know, how you choose to approach that with a decision that you need to make sometime, you know, in the next 4 weeks of what you do with your pricing. It's best to be informed. You know, if you can have some information is power. Even if you can't completely eliminate some of the dollars. So how can ACE help? Mandy mentioned we primarily in the program there are fixed rates and there are market rates. Customers are going to be left with a dilemma this year. If you choose a 1-year rate, it's probably, all indications are, 1-year rates are probably going to be up about 33% this year. You've seen the wholesale market more than double over a year ago, but that's not all your price. As Mandy mentioned, you know, Black Hills has a distribution charge. They have built in within even the supplier commodity rate is transportation on getting that gas to the city gate or to your town. So those are components that are built into it. So it's not going to double. But a 33% increase is certainly going to be difficult for customers to understand and accept. You can lower that a little bit by going with a 2-year rate or a 3-year rate because of that backwardated market. If you blend those rates, it's not going to be up that much. But is it best to do a 1-year and wait next year and hope the market comes down? Or lock in some kind of certainty over a 3-year period? One thing that is more of a unique option that we offer to businesses, to commercial users like yourself, especially with a business partnership, is something we call Market Shield. You can choose to lock in a 3-year rate with ACE and have that be on a market rate. We can't advise you to go fixed or market. What I can tell you is, as a consumer, with the uncertainty that we're facing, I wouldn't be on a pure market rate. I would be on a fixed rate and take that pain. At least I would know what it was. But another option that we can do is lock in that first year on a fixed rate. Take that short-term pain, keep the rest on a market rate, and look for opportunities when there are those pullbacks to lock in rates over that 2nd and 3rd year, that we're not constricted then to the selection period, to that 3 weeks in April. If there's opportunity at another time in the market, we can lock in additional portions of your gas for you. And I think, unless there are questions with that, I'll turn it back to Mandy. Have I dumbfounded all of you?
Beth, this was very informative. Any questions before we move to Mandy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had a question on that Market Shield you were just talking about.
Uh-huh.
You said lock in for the first year, then look for opportunities going forward to maybe lock in at a lower rate.
Yes.
So say we want to go with that 3-year lock in, and after the first year we see a lower rate. So then if we lock into that lower rate, is that just for the remaining filling out our 3-year commitment, or is that a new 3-year period going forward?
It would not be a new 3-year period. So if you wanted to consider an option like Market Shield, you know, it would seem reasonable to me that you would want to lock in at least a portion of your first year of gas. Not leave it all exposed to the market, lock in at least 50% for that first year and leave the rest on the market. You're going to end up with kind of a blended rate. You'll have some exposure to the market, but you'll have some certainty. And then maybe say 6 months after the selection period ends, maybe in September, rates look a little better. And for that second year of your 3-year term, okay, now we can lock in gas for you at a lower rate. You can choose whatever percentage you want for that particular year, or choose to lock in that whole year. And the same thing with that third year. And we can certainly have more in-depth conversations with you, give you quotes where you can actually see what that looks like, you know, what you're starting out with, what your options are. This is really what we do with a program that we do for schools in Nebraska. It's called CJUMP, the Choice Joint Utilities Management Program. Because our industry doesn't have enough acronyms, we have to have another one called CJUMP. But within that, schools actually join together and make pricing decisions together. And they typically do this so that they don't have to be limited to what does the market look like in April. For 3 weeks in April, they have the opportunity to look at it throughout the year. And they have a committee that meets and says, yes, pricing looks much better now. We're going to lock in some. Mandy, how much on CJUMP for this current year, they have how much locked in already?
They locked in 75% for this year and next year.
Right. So last year, they ended up, because they could see some of this on the horizon, they locked in 100% for last year. And then they said, you know what, this is going to give us some pretty good certainty for the next couple of years. And so they locked in 75% of what was then the second and third year of their agreements. And we can do that, you know, on an individual hospital, individual facility, customize that to what works for you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, and we'd love to talk to you about that. Whenever you want to do that, we could start talking rates. Anybody else before I turn it back to Mandy? She'll tell you a little bit more about ACE. And we'll be happy to take questions during or after Mandy's conclusion. Thought I clicked ahead, Mandy. There we go.
Okay, we're back to me. Now that we've given you all this information, I wanted to chat with you just a little bit to tell you about ACE's role in choice gas and who we are, so you kind of know what your source is of all this information that we just threw at you. ACE is, as Mike said earlier, we are a public alliance of currently 75 communities and 1 public power district. We started out back in 1998. Back then, you know, it was a different utility. It was a different natural gas scene. It was just a different environment. And back when the program first started and they're putting the rules together, there were several communities, ended up being 23 that started ACE. They were concerned that there wasn't going to be true competition. It was just going to be 3 different names of the same supplier, and there wasn't going to be true competition in there as a benchmark to know, are you getting a good price or you're not getting a good price? So they created their own natural gas company. And when they did, the communities that got together, they had 3 specific rules, 3 specific things that they wanted to accomplish. And this is, our board discusses it even today. These are the 3 things that we wanted to accomplish as a natural gas supplier in this program. We wanted to make sure that there was that competition, pricing competition, different pricing options. We got to make sure that there's competition out there. We want to make sure that we're an advocate for choice gas consumers. When you are owned by 75 towns and a public power district that is owned by a whole lot of towns. That's a lot of community. That is a lot of people that is impacting, and that is part of this. So we need to be out there as an advocate for our consumers, whether that's testifying at rate cases, whether that is educating the public and making sure that they understand so they can make an informed decision. You know, we've gone in front of the Public Service Commission. We have testified at rate cases. We are there to be an advocate for consumers. And we are also there, I mean, if you're going to create a company, you're going to want to make sure that, you know, it's going to positively impact you. So our goal is also to have a positive impact on the communities that we serve. And we have a couple of different ways that we do that. So just kind of in general, what sets ACE apart? We are community owned. Like I said, we are operated under a board of directors for local control. Every single community that is a member of ACE has a voice on our board. They help make decisions. We're located in Lincoln, Nebraska. Definitely can't get more Nebraska than being in Nebraska. We are a strong believer that competition works for consumers. We are there to be competition. When I often say, when suppliers compete for your business, you win. So we're big in understanding competition's role and choice. We advocate for Nebraska ratepayers. We keep our revenues in Nebraska, and literally we are in it for Nebraska consumers. Some of the cool things that we do, one of my favorite parts about ACE is the community impact. And over the years, we have, through our revenue return program, we, like Mike said, we are not for profit. We are not there to try and get as much money as we can so we can put it back in our communities. But if things are setting right, the board can say, let's put money back into the communities. And over the last 25 years, that's been a little over $3 million that has gone back into our communities. And it's done some really cool programs. We've done some really cool things with it. Recently in Sydney, they did a new ball field lighting thing where it's more energy efficient, and it's kind of crazy. It's got like some light tracking, anti-glare technology. It was really cool. In Alliance, they've been working on this big ARC Park program, and one part of it is they created a playground where the kids didn't have to cross a highway to get to it. So that was a really big thing. And even in some of our smaller communities like Franklin, they have a community theater, and the community theater needed some new seats, and so they were able to use the revenue return program to get some fancy new seats. Oh, Ainsworth, yes, we've done some stuff there. I don't know if I have a specific project from Ainsworth recently, but yeah, definitely. Okay, so another thing that we do, besides just the straight, putting money back into the communities, we also have our volunteer programs. Because if we can leave the community a little bit nicer than we started, then that's definitely good. We have some cleanup programs that we do where our community leaders, they go and they find volunteer groups, and we do litter cleanups, and we provide all the materials that they need. And when they're done, the volunteer group that helped us out, we give them a little donation for their efforts. So we've had a lot of different programs. Usually we have about 30 groups going out in a year doing different cleanup programs. We also have a program, it helps our communities, and it helps our communities help each other. We have this program called our Project of the Year Award, and we have a lot of communities that do a bunch of different things, and some people are kind of, they don't always have ideas of how it works, how to get things done, different things that you can do with what you get. And so the Project of the Year Award is where our communities can kind of showcase and kind of brag about some of the cool stuff happening in their communities and share it with our other communities and share it with the public. And you can kind of see some of the fun things that happen, like in Lyman, they just recently won in their population category. Just last night it was announced they won for a zip line project that they had in their local park. One of the cool things is it's bringing people into the community that had never been there before, and it's creating more of a family experience of people playing outside and in the park. So we do Project of the Year Award. We let the public vote, so it's not all on me. And then the winners get a spiffy little plaque and some bragging rights, but they also get a little extra donation towards future community betterment programs. So
as Andy said, those awards were just given last night. and it was very fun. It's very rewarding to see what's accomplished in these communities that ACE has contributed to. I couldn't help myself. I had to look up on our website some of the projects that some of you folks have had in your communities. In Ainsworth, there were infrastructure improvements, park fountain refurbishment, shades and benches for the swimming pool. And Cozad, 75 trees in city parks and an indoor sports recreation community facility. And we haven't had confirmation back from Henderson of what they've done with their funds, but fun to see what those are.
Sometimes they'd like to tell us, sometimes they're a little camera shy.
And I apologize. When I did that, then I lost my screen here. All right, there.
That's okay. That's okay.
Are you
Anyway,
still seeing it?
Yeah, you're seeing it. Anyway,
Okay.
that's just some of the cool things that ACE is, that we do, and why we're here and why we do what we do. But if anything, you know, the choice gas selection period, like I said earlier, it's April 1st through the 21st. If it comes up, you need any help, you have any questions, you give us a call. Beth is always around, but Lori and I will be managing most of the traffic when it comes to commercial customers this year, the hospitals and schools. So if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, give us an email. We're more than happy to help.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I think that's all I have, unless Beth has anything else.
Just open to questions.
Okay.
And, of course, we'd love to have the opportunity to give you a quote on your accounts, see what we can do for you, and see if we can be a good fit. We would love to be more involved in all of the Nebraska communities that are part of the Choice program. And thank you for the opportunity, Mike, to present this to members.
Yes.
No, thank you both. It was, from my perspective, incredibly informative and educational. I think it's a pretty clear reason why the NHA endorses ACE as our natural gas partner. With that being said, I know, perfect. It looks like
Arturo wants to know how to get a quote.
Thank you, Brian. Beth, Mandy, do you want to tackle how one of our member hospitals would receive a quote?
Go ahead, Mandy. If you want to type your email address in there, that'd probably be the best contact there.
Yeah. I was like, looked like Beth was going to talk. I'm going to let her do it. But yeah, I'll put in my email address.
And also for Brian, Arturo, and Corey, if you go to nhaservices.org and click on partners, it is very easy to find ACE, which you will find, I believe, both Mandy and Beth's information. And they would either professional would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, once
chat and get to know you.
Yeah, once you get your selection form, it'll have your account numbers on there. I should have the data right now where I can look it up too, but sometimes there's a few meters in there that have weird names. So I want to make sure that I'm looking up the right pricing for the right meters, and we can chat about it and see what we can come up with for you.
Great.
Oh, good.
Any final questions before we conclude for today? Perfect. Well, Beth, Mandy, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you today. Again, please feel free to reach out to either Beth or Mandy for future questions. Here at the NHA, we greatly encourage you to explore ACE as your natural gas partner. And with that, we will give everybody 5 minutes back in their day. Have a wonderful Thursday. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.